It is another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of Friday the 13th, the first Friday the 13th of 2006, in January of 2006. Usually Friday the 13th is usually a bad day, but not this time around. I mean, if we're being honest here, the early part of January is actually turning out to be pretty good so far. We've had a good movie that came out last week, and this week we have two more underrated little gems here that you probably aren't too familiar with, including one with Josh Lucas in a basketball drama, Queen Latifah in one of my favorite underrated movies, and then you have James Franco starring in a melodramatic period drama, if you will. But before we get to that one, let's go ahead and get to the biggest new release of the weekend, which is Josh Lucas starring in Glory Road. Movie. This is Glory Road, and based off the true story surrounding the events leading to the 1966 NCAA University Division Basketball Championship. We have Don Haskins, played here by Josh Lucas, who's the head coach of Texas Western College, who coaches a team with an all-black starting lineup, a first in NCAA history. The movie explores racism, discrimination, and student athletics. And you also have Derek Luke among the cast in here, John Voight is in here, Emily Deschanel, Makad Brooks, Alfonso McCauley. Names you may be very familiar with. Tatiana Ali is in this movie as well. This is one of those Disney sports movies that's not really talked about all that much, even though it was a big hit in general. It's kind of coming around the same time we talked about another Disney sports movie that was kind of underrated when it came out, The Greatest Game Ever Played. This one I don't think is as good as The Greatest Game Ever Played is. This one is definitely more formulaic and more to the typical underdog sports movie formula that we've seen done over and over again, but like I said before, Disney usually did a pretty good job with these movies in general. They make these movies that are very much stories we've seen done to death, but because they're touching on subjects that you don't really see that often in movies like this, and that are done very well with the actors that they have in here, you do get invested in it, and you do feel like there is something to this movie, even though we've seen this movie done over and over again so many times. And yeah, we've seen this movie done over and over again so many times, but at the same time, the cast in here is just perfectly handled. The way the message they're trying to get across is well done. The sports stuff they show in here is very good too. I mean, it's a really good little film. I mean, nothing too grand, nothing too spectacular by any means necessary. I wouldn't even put this in the same category as some of the best Disney sports movies they've ever done, but this is still a really good movie. And like I said before, they have very rarely ever missed with sports movies in general at Disney. I mean, they've done a pretty good job of making even the most formulaic movies they've done still have something of merit to them, and this is one of those examples where that works very well to a T here. This is a really good movie, definitely one that's very underrated. I highly recommend checking this one out if you haven't seen it. So that is Glory Road. Now let's go ahead and get to the next movie, probably my favorite movie of the entire week. Actually, it is my favorite movie of the week, and that is Queen Latifah, starring in the remake of Last Holiday. Yeah, the marketing campaign really does not do a good job of selling this movie in general here. If you actually watch the movie in general, it's much better than the trailers let on here. You have Queen Latifah as a humble department store assistant who is told that she has a very rare brain condition and only has a few weeks to live. And she promptly decides to spend the rest of her fundings on a luxury hotel in Europe before she dies. And this is one of those movies, well, for one thing, it's a film that was very much in production hell for so many years. Like, if you go online and find, like, an old Paramount 1980, I think it's 85, reel of all the movies they had coming out, which most of those movies did eventually get made, maybe not by Paramount, but they did eventually make it to the big screen. I think there was a Jetsons movie that they were talking about doing in there, a Peter Pan movie. Those films eventually got made through other studios. This was being brought back all the way back then in 1985. They wanted John Candy for the role in this and had him attached for several years, but after he died in 94, it essentially went over to Queen Latifah, and the end result is the movie that we have here. It's a movie that is definitely a lot better than the marketing puts on, and it's one of my favorite movies to watch when I've had a really bad day at work or just a bad day in general. For some reason, I could just pop this movie in and just, it's a good comfort food movie. Yeah, it's a movie about Queen Latifah possibly dying, even though really, if you watch the film in general, she isn't dying in general, but she is a person that just wants to, she thinks she has little time left on this earth, and she says, you know what? If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna go out swinging. So I'm gonna go take all my funds out of my bank account and just go on this exuberant holiday, and and just go over. And where she goes to, she really just is like she really turns to the hotel people that she works with, that she's around her. They give her like a, what am I trying to say here? What am I trying to say here? She kind of influences the hotel workers that are at this building, like, do things you haven't done before, live your life like there's no tomorrow, because for her, there really isn't going to be a tomorrow. That's what I was trying to say beforehand. I don't know how to put it together, and they never really put it together that, so, she's going to die in a few weeks, and only one person in this movie knows that, and that's Gerard Depardieu, who actually does a really good job in here playing the chef in this, and she does form a nice little friendship between the two of them. I think that works very well. I think everybody in this movie is really good. LL Cool J plays a nice love interest to Queen Latifah's character. You have great talents like Giancarlo Esposito is very good in here. Timothy Hutton and Alicia Vitt are very good in this movie. There's a lot of really good talent involved in here. They've got really good writers in here. These are the writers that wrote Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jeffrey Price and Peter Seaman. And yeah, the movie, like, I think what works about it for me personally is that I think we can all agree that if we knew that we didn't have that much time left on this earth, like, this is exactly what we do. We take whatever money we have in our bank accounts, take it out, just go out and explore the world while we have as little time left on this earth as we can. And who knows, maybe you might inspire people by doing it too. And yeah, there are some slapsticky comedy moments in here that can be very hit and miss most of the time, but it does have a nice heart to it. It does have a nice message at the end when it's all said and done. It's a really good movie, man. I really like this one a lot. It's one, like I said, I always go back to it if I've had a really bad day and just want to watch something to take my mind off of things. This is that movie for me. I love this movie so much. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check it out. Last Holiday. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next film, which is actually our last film, and that is James Franco and Sophia Myles in Tristan and Isolde. There is good news from this movie, though. This is the last time you'll ever see a theatrically released Franchise Pictures movie. This was literally the last movie they put out before they went bankrupt. I mean, even when they went to simply straight-to-video movies, so we're not even going to talk about those ones here. So, saints be praised, we are finally done with the abysmal Franchise Pictures movies after we're done with this one. But Tristan and Isolde, you have a story that is an affair between the second in line to Britain's throne and the princess of the feuding Irish spells doom for the young lovers. And, Franchise Pictures is behind this movie, so yeah, despite the fact that this has the director of Waterworld and Robin Hood Prince of Thieves behind it, this is produced by Ridley and Tony Scott. You can put as many notable names on here. As soon as you see that Franchise Pictures logo at the beginning of the film, you know this son of a bitch is dead on arrival. And sure enough, this son of a bitch is dead on arrival. This is a really lame movie. And yeah, James Franco can be a good actor sometimes, so can Sophia Myles. When they're in this movie together, I do not buy their chemistry whatsoever. It's a pretty lousy movie. It's a film that probably had higher ambitions to it. This is something that Ridley Scott actually wanted to do for many, many decades. He had this in development all the way back when he was working on movies like The Warriors and Aliens in the mid-1970s. And, just when you watch this movie, there's nothing about this movie that is very good. It's a very bleak-looking film. The romantic element doesn't work very well. It's just a really, really lackluster film that has nothing of value to it whatsoever. It's just a really boring film, a really bland film. Yeah. But then again, that's what you get when you have Franchise Pictures behind this, and needless to say, this is pretty much what you expect from them in general here. But you know what? It's the last time we're going to be hearing from them on this show, so bye-bye, Franchise Pictures. We will not miss you one bit. And so, with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and we're heading back to what we expect from the month of January, because next time around we've got 3 movies that you probably have not had that much of a lasting impact, except for the first movie, which was Underworld Evolution, the sequel to Underworld. We also have End of the Spear. You probably never heard of that movie, and an Albert Brooks movie, Looking for Comedy in the Muslim World. So, not as good of a week as the last 2 weeks have been, but we'll take a look at those 3 movies on the next episode. That'll be tomorrow. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button if you want to know when new videos come out. We post every day on this channel, so hit those on the bottom to see more when we get new videos out. And also stay tuned after this gets posted, because the long overdue next episode of Time About the Movies Flashback gets put out. 3 movies to look at on another Friday the 13th, this time back in November of 1987, with Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Running Man, Cross My Heart, and Siesta. So we'll take a look at those 3 movies on Time About the Movies Flashback, and that'll be coming up in just a little bit, so stay tuned, because we will be right back.